Every December, millions of families gather around a decorated evergreen tree, lights twinkling, ornaments shimmering, gifts piled underneath. It's tradition, it's comfort, it's Christmas. But what if I told you that this beloved symbol, this tree we invite into our homes, wasn't always about joy and presents? What if its origins were steeped in blood, sacrifice, and a darkness so profound that the Christian church spent centuries trying to stamp it out? This is the story of the first Christmas tree, and it's not the one you were told as a child.
To understand the Christmas tree, we need to go back, way back, to a time before Christianity, before Rome, to the dark, endless forests of Northern Europe. Imagine yourself there, Germania, Scandinavia, the lands of the Celts and Germanic tribes. Winter isn't just cold, it's a death sentence. The sun barely rises, crops are dead, animals are scarce, and the nights stretch on forever. These people believed the world itself was dying. They worshipped trees, not just as symbols, but as living gods. The oak was Thor's tree, thunder and strength. The ash was Yggdrasil, the world tree connecting heaven, earth, and the underworld. But there was one tree that held special power in the dead of winter, the evergreen. While every other plant withered and died, the evergreen remained, green, alive, defiant against death itself. To these ancient peoples, this wasn't biology. It was magic. The evergreen held the secret to immortality. It was a bridge between this world and the next, and they were willing to do anything to harness that power. The Germanic tribes had a practice. During the winter solstice, the darkest day of the year, they would gather at sacred groves. These weren't peaceful gatherings. They were rituals, blood rituals. Historical accounts describe how they would hang offerings from the branches of evergreen trees, horses, cattle, and sometimes humans. Roman historian Tacitus wrote about these ceremonies with horror. He described how the Germanic tribes believed that sacrificing to the trees would bring back the sun, that the blood would feed the earth, that death would ensure rebirth. The evergreen tree wasn't just decoration, it was an altar. But here's where it gets stranger. These weren't random acts of barbarism. There was a twisted logic behind it, a psychology that still echoes in how we celebrate today.
Let me ask you something. Why do we bring a tree inside our homes? Why do we decorate it? Why do we place our most precious gifts beneath it? The answer lies in something psychologists call symbolic transformation. Those ancient people weren't just superstitious. They were terrified. Winter meant starvation, darkness, death. The human mind, when faced with overwhelming fear, creates rituals to regain control, to make sense of chaos. The evergreen tree became a symbol of hope, but that hope was purchased with blood. Fast forward to the 8th century. Christianity is spreading through Europe like wildfire, trying to convert the pagan tribes. But there's a problem. These people won't give up their sacred trees. So the church makes a decision. If you can't beat them, transform them. Enter Saint Boniface. The story goes that he traveled to Germania and encountered pagans worshipping a sacred oak, Thor's oak. In an act of defiance, Boniface took an axe and chopped it down. The pagans waited for Thor to strike him dead with lightning, but nothing happened. And in that moment of silence, Boniface pointed to a small evergreen growing nearby and said, "This is your holy tree. This is the tree of the Christ child." It was brilliant, and it was calculated. The church couldn't erase centuries of pagan worship, so they co-opted it. They took the symbol of pagan immortality and rebranded it as Christian eternal life. The evergreen no longer represented the old gods surviving winter. It represented Christ conquering death. But here's the dark truth that nobody talks about. The feelings didn't change. The psychology didn't change. We still gather around the tree in the darkest time of year. We still decorate it with symbols, not blood offerings anymore, but ornaments that carry meaning. We still place gifts beneath it like ancient offerings to appease the gods. And deep in our subconscious, that tree still serves its original purpose, to remind us that even in darkness, something survives. But the story gets darker still. By the 16th century, the Christmas tree tradition had evolved. In Germany, families began bringing evergreens into their homes and decorating them with candles, fruit, and paper. But the church was nervous. Why? Because they knew what most people had forgotten. They knew the tree's true origins, and they feared that by inviting it into Christian homes, they were inviting something else too. Church records from medieval Germany contain warnings, prohibitions against pagan tree worship, instructions to priests to discourage the practice. But people wouldn't listen. They loved their trees too much. There's a psychological phenomenon called cultural memory. Even when we forget the origins of a tradition, our minds remember the feeling, the meaning encoded in the ritual. And the feeling of the Christmas tree is older and darker than Christmas itself. Think about how we describe the perfect Christmas tree. We want it full, alive, evergreen. We bring a living thing into our home in the dead of winter, and we surround it with light. We're recreating an ancient ritual. We're participating in the same symbolic magic our ancestors performed 2,000 years ago. Here's the most unsettling part. Some folklorists believe that the tradition of placing gifts under the tree comes from the original practice of placing offerings to the tree. We've simply reversed the direction. Instead of giving to the tree to receive blessings from the gods, we give to each other in the presence of the tree, which still serves as witness, as guardian, as the living symbol of life defeating death. The tree is still watching, still waiting, still serving its ancient purpose. In the 1840s, Queen Victoria and Prince Albert popularized the Christmas tree in England and America. Newspapers printed images of the royal family gathered around their decorated evergreen. The tradition exploded worldwide. But here's what nobody mentioned in those cheerful illustrations. Prince Albert was German. He brought the tradition from the Black Forest region, the same forests where those ancient blood rituals took place. The tree traveled from pagan grove to Christian appropriation to Victorian living room to your home. And with it traveled something invisible, something we feel but can't name. A reminder that darkness and light are always intertwined, that our most beloved traditions often have the most unsettling origins, that every December, we're not just celebrating, we're remembering. So this Christmas, when you stand before your tree, lights glowing, ornaments spinning, that familiar pine scent filling the air, take a moment. Look at it. Really look at it. That tree is a survivor. It's a symbol that has outlasted empires, outlasted religions, outlasted everything. It was ancient when Christianity was born, and it will be here long after we're gone. We decorate it with joy now, with innocence, but somewhere deep in its evergreen branches, in the way it stands tall and watching in our homes, in the way we gather around it like our ancestors gathered around sacred groves, the darkness remembers. The first Christmas tree wasn't about Christmas at all. It was about survival, about fear, about the human need to find light in the darkness, no matter the cost. And every year, we keep that ancient bargain alive. Sweet dreams. If you want to keep uncovering the stories we were never meant to remember, follow the channel. There's always another mystery waiting.